Afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Kyle Mox. I'm Associate Dean for National Scholarships at Arizona State University, and today we're going to be talking about fellowships in general, national scholarships in general. So this is a broad category of awards that, for many of you, this might be your first encounter. So this is what we call the ONSA general presentation. It's really intended as an introduction to this entire genre of awards and opportunities, and I hope you do find it useful. Our first couple takeaways. I just want to highlight today, if you don't remember anything else from the next few minutes, I want you to remember a couple things. These are not the same as ASU scholarships. These aren't, if you go to scholarships.asu.edu, these are not just scholarships you apply for just to get money to help pay for your ASU tuition. They are bigger than that. They're more complicated than that. They're all coming from outside of ASU. But the bigger value for a lot of these awards is actually experience, meaning that they'll help you do something, which we'll talk about, or they're going to provide you access because of their prestige or other things like that. So the other takeaway I want us to keep in mind is that these are all very competitive awards. Because these are national scholarships, which I'll explain a bit more in detail in a moment. There are hundreds or even thousands of people applying for them, which doesn't mean they're unattainable. In fact, we do quite well, but you shouldn't do it on your own. You should come to us for help. This is why this office exists at ASU. We are here to help you apply for things. So I mentioned national scholarships, and what does that mean exactly? I tend to prefer the word fellowship, one, because I'm a Lord of the Rings fan, but two, I also think it emphasizes more the experiential nature of things. And footnote, all of the photos that we're going to see in today's presentations are ASU students and alumni who have applied for and received various fellowships, through our office. And so these are all real life people. You can connect with them. They all have stories. They all have their own application experiences as well. But national scholarships refers to any kind of award that is merit-based, it's competitive, and it's coming from outside of the university, meaning that ASU students are not the only people who can apply for these awards. So that means you're competing at a national or even international level. So that's a large pool, which means that they are fairly competitive because we might have only 50 or 100 awards and we have 400 or 1,000 people applying for them. They are open to undergraduates, some are open to graduate students, some are open to both, some are open to recent graduates or alumni. It really just does depend. Because these awards are coming from all sorts of different places, sometimes they're coming from federal agencies, sometimes they're coming from foreign governments, sometimes they're coming from nonprofit organizations. They all have their own rules, they have their own processes. It can be very confusing and difficult to sort through, which again is why I get a paycheck and this office exists, right? We are here to help you navigate the timelines and processes and all these sorts of things. So it can be complicated. I bring that up because it's difficult to generalize about a lot of the awards. A lot of times our news office or the administration wants us to generalize. And that's difficult to do because these are all different tools in the toolbox that all have very different purposes, different uses and processes. And so there's a lot of asymmetry here. So if you're feeling confused, that's not abnormal. Many of the awards, especially the more prestigious or more well-known ones, may require ASU nomination. And so there will be a deadline prior to the final submission deadline. So it's perfectly normal and acceptable to ask, hey, is there a campus deadline for this award? Does this one require nomination? Because all too often I get queries from students to say, hey, I just found out about this award, I'd love to apply. And I have to tell them that actually our campus deadline was a month ago. It already passed. We've already picked our nominees. I'm sorry, you'll have to wait till the next cycle if you're still eligible. So it's a relatively small number of awards, but again, the more well-known awards. And prestige is a loaded word. For some people that's an attractant, for other people that's a repellent. But I emphasize the fact that, because these are well-known awards, because they are so competitive, one of the virtues that comes along with it is that once you put it on your resume, that you are a Fulbright recipient or that you're a Rhodes Scholar or a Truman Scholar or what have you, that can open doors for you, right? That can look impressive on grad school applications, law school applications, job applications, so on and so forth. I refer to them as tools, right? And that's because they do exist in most cases for specific purposes. An award sponsor somewhere, again, be it a government agency, nonprofit organization, decided that a better use of their money would be to invest in people rather than just throw the money at a problem. And so most of the time, these fellowships exist to fill a need or a gap, or to promote a certain mission or value system, or to attract people to certain behaviors that that might not otherwise get there on their own. So again, I'm not going to generalize, but I could break kind of like the purposes of national scholarships down into 4 main categories. Fellowships exist to promote research and training, or support research and training for you. Many of them support international experiences. So many of our colleagues at other universities, their offices are actually called like global awards, the Office of Global Awards or something like that, because there are many awards for international experiences. I did emphasize in our key takeaways that these aren't just money. This isn't just money for scholarship money for ASU tuition. That being said, a lot of these awards do provide pretty substantial funding, right? It's just not the only benefit. So if you're really looking for a hammer to drive the nail in, meaning I'm just looking for money to pay my tuition, there are a lot easier ways to go about it. But again, also many of these awards do provide pretty substantial support for your educational costs. And most of them actually do have a strong emphasis on leadership. And these are all going to, again, because they're experiential, they're really going to lean into professional development for you in a lot of cases. And again, these all vary in some way to higher degrees in each of those 4 categories. So in terms of research or training, you could get access to national laboratories, or get into research experiences, or get to go spend the summer at a foreign university and do a STEM research project. In some cases, it's focused on critical languages. We have several awards that can help you study a less commonly taught language. You're like, I've always wanted to learn Azerbaijani. Not a lot of opportunities here in Arizona to do that. Maybe there are a lot of federal awards that can help you study those kinds of languages. Looking ahead in a graduate study, there are a lot of awards that can help support you if you want to go into a research career or get a research-focused degree. And there are even awards like the Fulbright, which can help you pursue your own project of your own design for a year in a foreign country. So one of the things you'll notice in the captions for our photos, I've picked out a lot of students here who are multiple award winners, right? So Chris, here in this photo, won a Goldwater Scholarship for his excellence in research, and then went on to win a graduate award, a Churchill Scholarship, to study at Cambridge University. So yeah, we get a lot of repeat customers, and these awards tend to build upon each other. It's not abnormal. So in terms of international experiences, yeah, some awards are just simple funding for study abroad programs. Again, not just ASU tuition, but that experience of getting to go abroad. Other times there are shorter term 3 to 5 week educational programs, or longer ones. Maybe you're going to spend a whole semester at another university abroad. Or maybe after you graduate, you want to spend a whole year teaching or taking courses, or pursuing a graduate degree abroad, or just like I mentioned, immersive language training. So Vid, the kid here, was a Udall scholar because of his excellence in environmental work, but also went on to teach English in Thailand. And now he's doing a lot of entrepreneurial work related to sustainable engineering solutions. Yeah, there are some awards that do just provide funding and recognition. So like the Goldwater Scholarship, which Katie got, provides a substantial financial award to help with your educational costs, but to also encourage you to stay in a STEM field. A lot of awards are for postgraduate studies. So you can do a graduate degree at a top-ranked university entirely free if you are a good fit for that particular fellowship. So for instance, Katie just recently is one of our newest Marshall Scholar recipients. So she will go to the UK next year, and for the next couple of years be pursuing 2 different master's degrees, completely funded, in 2 different topics at UK universities. Leadership being a big component as well. That's an abstract concept. It's an abstract word, and that means a lot of different things in different contexts. So again, that's something you work with us to discover, like, what does this fellowship think of as leadership? What does this fellowship think of as leadership? But a lot of these opportunities, I mentioned access at the start. A lot of these provide opportunities for, access to public service opportunities, getting involved in international affairs, fast tracking you into federal careers. For instance, we have an award that would allow you to bypass the Foreign Service Officer exam and pursue a guaranteed career with the Department of State. And so high-level internships, government employment guaranteed for a lot of these. So, Monica right here, as I mentioned, she did a Boren Scholarship to study Tagalog in the Philippines. She went and taught English in Germany after that, and then she went on to win an award that would pay for her graduate study and fast track her into a career as a Foreign Service Officer. So again, we can stack these awards one after the next. They are competitive though. You know, I mentioned that at the outset. The one award that everyone always seems to know is the Rhodes Scholarship. This is the one I use to explain to people when they ask me, what do you do for a living? I'm like, well, I help college students win the Rhodes Scholarship. And that seems to satisfy them, even though there are dozens and dozens of other awards that we work with. But to give you some sense of scale, I just had a student ask me about the Rhodes this morning, and I kind of put it in this context. About over 2,000 students nationwide, just in the US, opened Rhodes applications, and about 250 schools actually nominated students. And of those over 2,000, only 826 actually got nominated by their university. And out of that number, only 32 were selected. So the American Rhodes only picks 32 students, applicants per year. So that puts the selection rate is below 4%, which is actually worse than Harvard's undergraduate admission rate, right? That's a tough road to hoe. And so if we're going to apply for something as competitive and selective as the Rhodes, then we need to have a good plan. We need to make sure it's a good fit. And again, you'd really want to work with us. And you might wonder, you know, why does President Crow see fit to pay the salary of people that help people like you apply for awards that have very minimal chances of success, right? Is that a good ROI? Well, it is, right? Because our fundamental belief is that the value is in the process in and of itself. The outcome, if we do the process well, if we've made good choices, if we have good strategy, we've identified good awards for you, that you will ultimately, you know, you should have a good chance of winning an award. But that's really not what we emphasize, because there are a lot of variables outside of our control. Instead, we emphasize the value of the process. So if you engage sincerely with the fellowships application process, you will learn more about yourself. You'll have to articulate a future vision for what you're trying to do. And if you can do both of those things, you're going to become a better leader, and arguably you're going to become a better person. I know it's not polite to say when, you know, people accuse us, oh, do you think you're better than me? And well, if you apply for a fellowship, you can respond with some confidence. I'm not sure, but I think I'm trying a lot harder than you are, right? Which is a great comeback. It improves your overall educational experience. And so every year we survey our applicants, you know, hey, regardless of the outcome, would you recommend this process of applying to fellowships to other people? And, you know, nearly 90% say, yeah, this win, lose, or draw, this was a valuable experience. I learned a lot. This is important. So that's not to say we don't win, because we do, and we do quite well. And a lot of people come asking us, what's the secret of your success? And there's no secret. We just work really hard. So if you look at the last 10 years, 3 Rhodes Scholars, 5 Marshall Scholars, 6 Gates Cambridge Scholars. And these are all programs where the majority of the winners are from Ivy League schools. These are all fully funded experiences doing graduate study in the UK. 4 Truman Scholars in the last 10 years. Again, there's only 50 of those, 52 of those selected per year on average. 21 Goldwater Scholars, that puts us up near Stanford's performance. We are the nation's best school for the Udall Scholarship, which we'll talk about in a moment, and 180 Fulbrighters, right? And Fulbright, which we'll talk about more as well, provides a year-long international experience after you graduate. And, you know, here's the top 12 schools. And whoa, looky there, ASU is number 12 on that list. You'll notice that most of the other schools on this list have something in common. Harvard, Brown, Princeton, Yale, Columbia, Penn, all Ivy League schools. Georgetown, Chicago, Northwestern, Notre Dame, not Ivy League schools, but schools with single-digit selection rates. These are all private schools. The only other public university on this list is University of Michigan, which has a 23% admission rate. In and of itself. So I'm not sure if we should count that as a public school. I'm from Michigan, and don't ask me about my feelings about U of M. ASU has about an 83% admission rate, right? We are the new American university. We have asserted that if you can prove that you can do B or better work in high school, that you can achieve certain test scores, then we believe that you can succeed in college, and we will do what we can to help you. I love this graphic because this illustrates the success of the new American university model. All of these other universities have prided themselves on their exclusivity, while ASU has done the opposite. And what we have proven is that we can do excellence to scale. We are one of the top producing awards, putting out the best and the brightest students out into the world. So again, it turns a lot of heads. People look at this list and they say ASU, and they don't believe it, but here we are, year after year, a top producing institution. So again, I mentioned at the outset, how do we get there? Hard work, right? So our office, the Office of National Scholarships Advisement, is here, and among the different services we provide are things like what we're doing right now: informational sessions, webinars, online workshops, in-person workshops, writing workshops, boot camps, all manner of different events and activities to help you engage. We do a lot of work one-on-one with students, right? So you can book individual appointments with the appropriate advisor, and sit down and say, okay, I don't know where to start. I need to make a 2 or 3 year plan. Or, hey, I've narrowed it down. I found these 2 awards. Which one do you think I should go for? What's the plan? Or even as we're into it, we're looking at a 4th or 5th or 6th draft of your personal statement. There are a lot of different reasons to book appointments with our advisors. A big part of that, a big part of any application is writing instruction. I can think of only one award out of the 100 or so that we routinely work with that doesn't require some sort of primary essay. And even that one requires a 4-minute video, right? So you still got to think through it and plan. So big part of what we do is provide writing instruction. In fact, we're even piloting a course this semester on advanced approaches to this sort of practical writing. If there's an interview component, we'll happily prepare you for that. We'll organize some mock or practice interviews, give you some tips and tricks on that. And we can work with your faculty members on how to write letters of recommendation, how to be better mentors with you, and just helping you be a better and more mentorable student. So again, it's not so simple, right? There's a lot of different parts. Now, a question that everyone asks themselves at a certain point is like, I don't even know if I'm a good applicant. Should I even be thinking about this? Well, the first thing to keep in mind is that, I shouldn't have to say this, but you are all unique, right? You are all different people. You are the only one of your kind. And there are a lot of different things that the different fellowships look at, right? And so part of our job in working with you is figuring out, based on your background, based on your academic achievement, based on your plans, based on life experience, what's a good fit for you? Because there are some awards that are going to look at your academic record really highly. So Chantel was a Rhodes Scholar. She's a Zimbabwean Rhodes Scholar. So she had a 4.0, and she managed to do both an undergraduate and a master's degree in 4 years, because the Rhodes is looking for extraordinarily high academic achievement. Whereas other awards like Fulbright don't even have a minimum GPA. That's not to say that weaker students will find success there. It just means that the Fulbright is not prioritizing a certain GPA cutoff, right? So we'll have to look at that. Some are really looking at service, some are really looking at leadership. All of them are typically looking at your unity of purpose, meaning that as you compose the application, is there a clear and concise explanation of what it is you're trying to accomplish and how this fellowship fits in with that? And they'd like to know, if I give you this award, what happens then, right? As I mentioned at the beginning, the award sponsors invest in these programs because they want to accomplish an objective. They want to attract more people to research careers. They want to increase the numbers of people speaking critical languages in the federal government. They want to give an opportunity to people that have been historically excluded from certain careers to have an opportunity. They want to make sure that people of limited financial means can go study abroad because it's a life-changing experience, right? So they want to know that you're going to help fulfill that impact. So again, bigger and beyond just simple money to finish college, it is about achieving specific goals. And if your goals align, then you found the right fellowship. And I would summarize all of their objectives into they're all trying to make the world a better place in some way. So if you're the sort of person that is out there trying to make the world a better place, and I'm going to assume that you are, then you're probably going to find a fellowship that supports your specific objectives. Now, let's break down some of those bullet points a little bit. GPA does matter in many cases. In some fellowships, they'll actually post a minimum grade point average. So a 3.7, 3.5, 3.0, something like that. You do want to think about that in context, though. So if you're at the cutoff, keep in mind that, like the Rhodes, for instance, has a 3.7 cutoff. There are 826 applicants this year. You're at the bottom end of that pool. They've only got 32 applications. So even though you are eligible, are you going to be competitive? Your grade trends matter. Are you an upswing or downswing? Did you have trouble one term? And if so, is there a story behind that? Are you a yo-yo trend, which is the most worrisome trend, sort of up and down with your grades? Are you pursuing challenging courses? Maybe you're pursuing multiple majors or minors or certificates. And considering what you say you want to do in the future, are you pursuing a curriculum that makes sense? So, if you want to be pre-med, but you're pursuing an English major, are you pursuing the pre-med, prerequisites? You're an engineering major, but you say that you want to be an English teacher. Like, how do we make that work? And I would say beyond just your transcripts, a lot of the fellowships like to see what I call intellect in action, meaning how are you taking what you're learning in the classroom and putting it out in the world? Are you presenting at conferences? Are you publishing? Are you giving posters at conference presentations? Are you getting involved in undergraduate research experiences at ASU or outside of ASU? You know, more than just marking the grade, going to class, marking grades. Like, are you doing something with your intellect? The idea of leadership, again, as I said, is abstract. It means a lot of different things in a lot of different contexts, but I will attempt to generalize here by saying that they like to see demonstrated leadership, meaning that when students say, oh, I lead by example, and that's a way of saying that you think you live a good life and everyone around you is noticing it and trying to be better because you're such a shining example, right? No, they want to see, like, you know, how many people are following you, how many people are in your organization, what was accomplished. You know, if we're looking at people trying to do good in the world, what good was done because of your leadership? So there are a lot of leadership positions that are kind of just titles, right? I always make fun of Model UN. And if any of you are in Model UN, I mean no harm or offense. But it seems like everyone gets a leadership title on Model UN, right? And so instead, they like to know, what did you accomplish? Creative leadership is often preferred in many awards, meaning that I saw a problem, nobody was doing anything about it, so I stepped in, right? I motivated other people to help. I started a club. I organized volunteers. I wrote an op-ed piece and I got students involved in this, right? Anything that you do that's beyond ASU as well, if you get involved in national leadership positions or state level leadership positions, always a bonus, right? Because a little harder to get, shows more responsibility, more motivation. And they should be intentional. And by that, you know, I understand as we get at the start of our college careers, maybe we're just pursuing things that look interesting, or our roommate took us to, or just we're not entirely sure. So we just start kind of grabbing different experiences. But as you progress and as you move closer to graduation and your long-term goals, we would expect that your choices of how you spend your time get more intentional, meaning that you're trying to put together experiences in a thoughtful way towards a specific goal. And there's progression there, right? You're not just stepping into something that's easy to do and just kind of writing it out, right? And then in terms of unity of purpose and mission, one of the things we try to help our applicants do is decode the application, meaning that we're going to think through who is the audience, who are the actual live human beings reading this application, and what is it they're looking for, what is the mission of this program, and that we understand the criteria, that, you know, we understand, okay, here's all your resume information, here's their criteria, how can we match this up? So there's a lot of strategy involved. And a lot of that has to, you know, is accomplished through your personal statement, where you tell your own story. You look to the future, you talk about, you know, what set you down this pathway in the first place, in what ways have you tried to pursue this goal, and where do you see yourself going in the future? We'll try to help you to be clear, direct, efficient, and make sure that you are setting yourself apart from all the other applicants who are probably similar to you in many ways in terms of priorities and values, right? But you can set yourself apart with your clarity and your focus. And that's a big part of what we do. And we want to try to help them meet you. There's a picture of Charity. If you've been to the main Tempe bookstore in the center of campus, you've probably seen her picture over the checkout registers. It's funny, every time I go in there, I'm like, oh, there's Charity. Once again, I talked to her a couple of months ago, and we laughed about how I see her head in a giant 9-foot poster every time I go to the bookstore. So you too can be a giant head in the bookstore if you apply for fellowships. A big part of almost every fellowship application process are letters of recommendation. And this can be an obstacle for a lot of students who, again, if you're just doing the duck into class, or online students have a challenge with this sometimes. But almost every fellowship we work with requires at least one letter of recommendation. There are a few that don't, but almost everyone does. The Rhodes requires 5 to 8 letters of recommendation. That's the biggest one, right? 8 letters of recommendation is not easy to get. But you can cultivate these relationships, meaning that, you know, it's never too late to start to build connections with your faculty member. And in fact, even if we take Fulbright out of the equation, or excuse me, fellowships out of the equation, you should be doing this, right? These people are here to be your mentors. These people are here to help you grow as a person. So I really do encourage you to be mentorable and start to build these relationships with your faculty members. As we think about who would be good for this, again, we're going to look at the application, we're going to decode, and in some cases, okay, you really got to get tenure track faculty for this. In other cases, yeah, your boss at Starbucks would be a great example because they want to know about your responsibility. That could be a good choice. It really depends on the context. So depending on your award, you want to give plenty of time, lead time. You want to provide them plenty of resources. And we're happy to coach you through that process, depending on the award, in terms of what is the right timeline to make the ask. What should you do to make them want to say yes, or make them think that they're a good choice for this. And then we also have resources to give faculty members to help them write better letters as well. So one of your best resources is going to be our website. And so a lot of websites are just a place to find phone numbers, right? But ours really does have a lot of resources. So you won't find these large yellow arrows there. These are here just for illustration purposes. But unsurprisingly, a great place to start is start here. And that'll kind of walk you through the basics, cover a lot of the things we've talked about here today. And then just to the left of that, you'll see scholarships, right? And that's our database. We cultivate this database, or I guess curate would be a better word. And the awards that we have in this database are awards that either ASU students have applied for and won in the past, or ones that we think would be good fits for ASU students. And it is by no means an exhaustive list, but we are promising that we can help you apply for any of the awards in our database, and that's why they're there. Info sessions, obviously you found that page if you're here right now, but if you go back there, you'll see that there are several other events all throughout the semester that you can attend. If you haven't done so already, one of the best things you can do as soon as you hop off this Zoom is subscribe to the weekly bulletin. I promise you, it's brilliantly written and full of useful content. And mainly it's a way for you to know, okay, what deadlines are coming up, what events are coming up, and hey, how are my fellow ASU students doing? And so every time there's a good outcome, we publish it in there. But it's a great way for you to know, are there awards relative to me coming up? Are there info sessions that I should be attending? So that way you don't have to pay attention to every single outreach email. You don't have to keep coming back to the website. You'll get updated. And then once you're ready to meet with one of us, you can also make an appointment right from the website as well. So, all right, get your notebooks handy. So we're going to have a quiz at the end of this, and you're going to have to match all these titles to all the different criteria. I'm absolutely kidding. Mainly, I just want to highlight some of our marquee awards, meaning the awards that we tend to get the most traffic for, that fit the widest number of students. Mainly just so you can kind of bookmark the name and then do some more research and follow up with us later if this sounds like something that would interest you. So I'm going to run through a few of the undergraduate awards first, meaning these are awards open to current undergraduate students. First one is an award that I like because it's open only to first and second year students. There are very few fellowships that are open to first year students. Reason being is that most first year students haven't yet focused up enough to know what they're trying to do, and they don't have much stuff on their resumes yet, right? And so as we get into second year, there's a lot more, but this is one that's open to first and second year students. 3 to 6 week academic experience at a British university in the summer. They're really looking for students that haven't really traveled much outside of North America, and you get to spend a few weeks there, all your costs covered. And basically, that they're focused on specific topics, right? So art and activism at one of these. Killam Fellowship is another international exchange program. Both of the previous award and this one are sponsored by Fulbright, which is sort of an umbrella international program that exists between the United States and many other countries. Basically, you continue to pay your ASU tuition, but you get to attend a semester at a Canadian university. And the idea being that you find a Canadian university that is very good at the thing you want to learn more about, or you want to study your thing from a Canadian perspective. Maybe they're Canadian literature courses or policy courses or history courses, things like that. An additional $5,000 in funding. So again, you're getting your normal ASU financial aid if you're having any, and then you get an additional award which you can help to defray costs or just use as a general award. And because it's an ambassadorial program, you're going to participate in orientation activities. This year, they took all the Killam Fellows and made them play ice hockey, which is a very Canadian thing to do. They have these really cool Killam hockey sweaters. Again, that was charming, but they also got to meet ambassadors and got to network with a lot of other Canadian officials. This is open to second, third, and fourth year students. CLS, the Critical Languages Scholarship. Again, this is one of those ones I was mentioning that's helping U.S. students pursue study of less commonly taught languages. So this is a summer program. It's open to students at all levels, even graduate students. And basically you're choosing from one of 14 less commonly taught languages, which include things like Arabic, Azerbaijani, Russian, Korean, Hindi, maybe Urdu, Swahili. So essentially anything non-Western European. So English, Spanish, German, French, not so much, but other languages. And you'll be working in a group-based cohort in country for that summer. A lot of cultural exchange opportunities. Again, it's a Department of State program, looks really nice on your resume. We're just getting announcements on this. Looks like we may have about 8 recipients of this year. Boren is sort of a larger, more comprehensive version of this. Boren is a Department of Defense program, but has much the same objective, that they want to increase the number of U.S. students who are pursuing critical language study. It's a bigger award, so they'll award you up to $25,000 to pursue an independent language-focused program of study abroad. So essentially, you find a program and say, okay, I want to learn Yemeni, and so you'll find a program that teaches Yemeni. So you're not limited to a pre-chosen list of languages, but again, non-Western European, and you find the program, and they basically write you a check, or maybe transfer it via Zelle. I'm not sure how they're doing it now. But the idea is that it's of relevance to national security. So Madeline is one of the students from our Chinese language flagship program at ASU, all of whom have done very well in this program. They're required to do a capstone year in Taiwan, and Boren is a great way to pay for that. Gilman Scholarship is probably the least specific. It essentially exists to provide funding for people who have limited financial means to study abroad. So in simpler terms, if you're a Pell Grant recipient, if you're getting a federal Pell Grant and you'd like to study abroad, you should apply for Gilman, because you're going to get up to $5,000. This one's probably the simplest, right? It's open any year of study. We have deadlines in October and March. The application for March just opened. So if you're looking at a study abroad program for the summer, fall, or next spring, you should apply now. And you're, again, Pell Grant recipient. Yeah. And we've got information sessions just on Yeoman coming up. So check back into the website, have writing workshops. It's a huge program for us. We had like 33 awards just in the fall cycle alone. We'll probably have another 40 or 50 in this cycle. Truman, named after President Harry Truman. This is a .gov. So instead of a big building somewhere, an obelisk or a statue, Truman's family decided they wanted to establish this scholarship, which exists to identify people who aspire to great careers in government, public service, or advocacy. So Armando, who's our most recent winner, was a recipient last year. He actually got elected to the Tempe Union High School School Board, or the governing board, as a sophomore at ASU, right? He graduated DV High School, and right away, he thought, I want to stay involved. I want to have an influence on education in Arizona, and he ran, and I voted for him. I lived in his district, right? And in recognition of that great aspiration for government public service, he applied and received a Truman Scholarship. So $30,000 to help pay for graduate study or professional study. He plans to go to ASU Law, and ASU actually kicks in free tuition for Truman Scholars. So it's a great win for him as well. We can only nominate about 4 students per year for that. So this is one of those ones I mentioned that does have a nomination requirement. Another nominated award is Udall. I've mentioned this one a couple times already. This has 2 main categories. So either students who are pursuing environmental careers, so all of our sustainability majors, all of our students who are looking at research related to sustainability or activism or policy, great. And for our Native American and Alaska Native students who are looking towards careers in tribal policy or tribal healthcare. So those 2 categories of awards. They might as well have called this the ASU award, right? Because it's basically Native American issues and sustainability, which we're the nation's leader in both of those categories. $7,000 award to help with your education, but then also you get to participate in leadership development and professional development through them. This is a new one, just ran last year for the first time. So the Voyager Scholarship is actually a partnership of the Obama Foundation, yes, that Obama, and Airbnb of all things, right? So this is a new one, kind of like Truman, focused on people who want to pursue careers in public service. It's open to rising juniors. So if you'll be a junior next year, you would be eligible for this. It's a big award, right? Up to 50 grand in financial aid to help pay for the rest of your undergrad and professional school. A one-time award of 10 grand to pay for study abroad of your choosing. Again, the Voyager part of this. And the unique thing about this one is that they'll give you a budget of 2 grand a year for 10 years to continue traveling every year if you want to. And obviously you get to stay at Airbnbs for free, which is pretty nice. And you get to meet Obama. So every year there's going to be a conference of all the Voyager scholars, and at which you'll get to meet President Obama and engage in professional development activities. So this is kind of like a little bit of everything. This is a really good one. We had 2 winners in the first cycle. So Nana was one of our first winners for this, and I hope one of you is part of the next cohort. The application literally just opened today, and it'll be due a little bit later in March. So again, subscribe to the bulletin and investigate this one further. It's a great award. We're going to take a look at some postgraduate fellowships. So if you all are current undergraduates, these would be ones you'd want to start looking towards the end of your junior year, into your senior year. They'll probably be due at the start of your 4th year. One category of awards we kind of lump together are awards for graduate study in the United Kingdom or Ireland. So there are options like the Marshall Scholarship, Mitchell Scholarship, or Fulbright, where you have your choice of just about any university in the UK. So Katie will be going to Leeds and to Cambridge, potentially. That's what the proposal was. So she's going to be going to a couple different ones. There are ones that are associated with specific universities. So the Rhodes Scholarship, for instance, is only for study at Oxford. So Nathaniel Ross also won the Rhodes this year. He's our first American Rhodes Scholar in 20 years at ASU. Pretty cool. So he'll be going to Oxford. They're also at Oxford, the NIH OxCamp program, which you'll do a doctoral program in something related to health studies or medical studies. Pershing Square, also at Oxford for business and nonprofit. Gates Cambridge, unsurprisingly, for any degree program at Cambridge. And we mentioned Churchill earlier. That's for STEM degrees at Cambridge. So again, a lot of different options. We want to figure out that you're going to get to go to a place that's going to help you. Increasingly, we're seeing new awards popping up for graduate study abroad as well. So if you're interested in going to China, there's the Schwarzman Scholars Program at Tsinghua University in Beijing, and then the Yenching Academy at Peking University. So the top 2 universities in all of China, you can attend either one of those and pursue more of a general international focus. And it's open to people of all fields. You don't need to speak Chinese. A new award that opened last year is the McCall-McBain Scholars Program. Confusingly enough, it's at McGill University, so 3 different mix there. And this again will pay for any graduate program at McGill University. And last year was the first time that U.S. citizens could apply for this award. We had a couple of finalists for that. And then again, the Fulbright Award, Fulbright program is for just about anything you want to do abroad, whether that's pursue graduate study, research, teach English, so on and so forth. There's even a good chunk of new awards for graduate study in the U.S. There aren't a ton of awards to support graduate study in the U.S. because a lot of that funding should be coming from your university. But there are these new fellowships that are trying to recognize outstanding students in certain capacities. So the Knight Hennessy Scholars Program, named after Phil Knight of Nike fame, founder of Nike. Hennessy, not the booze, but actually the former president of Stanford, John Hennessy. Any graduate or professional program at Stanford. A new award this past year was the Quad Fellowship, and that actually provides full funding for any graduate degree in STEM at a U.S. university. And that's open to students from the U.S., India, Japan, and Australia, the Quad Fellowship there. We had 2 winners out of 20-something, so just shy of 10% of the pool. SAMBID Scholars, open to graduate study in any field in the U.S., and that one's really looking for under-resourced and historically excluded students. And if you're a new American or your parents were born outside of the U.S., you could take a look at the Soros Fellowship. A lot of opportunities for teaching, because again, we want to put people in situations where there's high need. So you can be an English teacher through Fulbright in a foreign classroom. Here's Carson teaching English and giving fisties to an English language learner in Romania. If you're interested in history or government teaching, James Madison. If you want to go teach in Japan, JET. And there are programs in Spain and France as well. And every year more programs are popping up. They're looking for native English speakers who are great people that would, excite their students. We have a good number of students applying for awards that I would kind of put in this language study and foreign service category. So CLS we mentioned earlier, the Boren Awards we mentioned earlier, and those work very well in concert with Pickering, Rangel, and Payne, which are all for people that want to work for the Department of State. Very generous $30,000 awards, and then again, you get to fast track right into a foreign service officer post. You can skip the test. And I've mentioned Fulbright many times. This is our biggest program because it is the largest. You have the most options. You can go to upwards of 150 countries. You can pursue a project that focuses on graduate study, independent research, English teaching, even arts. You can, if you found a great teacher in a foreign country that you'd like to learn from, you can do that as well. So, all right. As mentioned, get your pens ready and we'll take a quiz. I'm kidding. I threw a lot of information at you, but really just to kind of get the names out there in front of you and give you a sense of, okay, what are the different types of fellowships? Am I looking at undergraduate or later? So where do we go from here? As I mentioned, I really strongly suggest you subscribe to the bulletin. Take a look at our info sessions page and see if there's other events coming up, more focused ones that match some of the things you're interested in. Once you have specific questions, right, you've identified, you've looked at the Start Here page, you've looked at the database, and you say, okay, I think I want to apply for Gilman. I'm looking, might want to do CLS and Boren. That's a great time to book an appointment. You can do that through our website. Not a great option to book an appointment if you just don't know and you want more information. All right. A lot of students say that I just want more information, which is a very difficult place for us to start. Instead, you might say, well, I'm not entirely sure what awards I'm looking at, but I know I want to go to law school and I want to work internationally. Can we sit down and make a plan? Absolutely. That's what we love to do, is to say, okay, here's our 2, 3, and 4-year plan. Here are some awards you can apply for every year. Here's what you need to do to be competitive for these awards. And let's kind of think through timelines, right? So just know, the more selective it is, the more prestigious it is, the more competitive it is. The more competitive it is, the more work required on your end, and the more work that we're going to put in to support you if you're willing to put in that work. So again, onsa.asu.edu, Office of National Scholarship Advisement. And if you can't tell, we love sharing the success of our students. Every photo you had was one of our students who's gone on to do wonderful things. So let me pause there. We've got a little bit of time. If anyone has any questions they'd like to ask or anything else I can clarify for you, feel free to pop them in the chat. Raise a hand, either way. Downside of Zoom is I can't read the room, so I don't know if anyone has a quizzical expression on their face right now. So, questions not mandatory, right? So if you do think of anything you'd like to ask, feel free to shoot me an email. Again, my name is Kyle Mox, so my email is Kyle, KYLE.mox, M-O-X, @asu.edu. You can visit our website and again, explore that database, explore the Start Here page, and start taking a look at some opportunities and events coming up. I often make the joke that working with ONSA is a little bit like psychotherapy. One visit's probably not going to do much for you. You're going to have to come back and meet with us multiple times. But for awards like the Gilman, which I mentioned, over 70% of the students who were awarded from ASU worked with us and had at least one draft, if not multiple draft, reviewed. So your odds of success in many of these awards goes up dramatically if you work with us, and that's ultimately what our promise is. So Heather asked a great question. How open are your advising appointments? Again, you can go right to our website, click the book appointments, and it'll show you what the availability is. You'll select through meeting topics, and most of you, if you're not sure where you're starting, you'd want to pick general undergraduate advising, and then you can select from available appointments there. So we have appointments available every week. Voyager scholarship exclusive to government type public service or fields like medicine also eligible. If you can explain in what way the practice of medicine would be considered public service, yeah. If you're working, in a profitable career as a physician for a hospital, privately owned hospital, that wouldn't technically be public service, as opposed to like saying, okay, I want to work for a government agency, I want to be a researcher for the CDC or something like that. Still get a little feel for what the Voyager defines as public service. But yeah, that's something we can dive deeper into Absolutely. Any other questions? Again, yeah, if you're going to book one of those general appointments, we would hope that you come loaded with questions ready to go. You've got some fellowships in mind, and at least you have an answer to the question, what do you want to be when you grow up? Because I promise you that's what I'm going to ask you, and have some ideas of where we're going from here. Again, my favorite thing is that if we get to meet a first or second year student and you apply for one thing, maybe you get it, maybe you don't. You apply for another thing, maybe you get it, maybe you don't. And we start to put together, and you'll find out that it gets a little easier every time. And by the time you're a senior, you are a well-rehearsed and well-oiled machine, and you are very good at writing about yourself and articulating your goals and your assets, and it gets easier and better every time. So again, thank you all for your time. I know busy semester, a lot of things competing for our attention, so I appreciate you tuning in today. This will be recorded. We'll follow up via email with everyone who registered for the event, and we'll make it available to you for future look. So again, have a great day. Thanks for your time and attention. I appreciate it.